Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
One topic that comes up from time to time people ask me about is, do police officers have quotas when it comes to writing tickets? Do police officers have quotas? If you ever ask a police officer, they'll always tell you, no, of course we don't. That's crazy talk. We don't have those. And every now and then something will slip out where they have a quota. And I've heard police officers talking about quotas, and they just don't use that term. But they are pressured to write tickets. And a quota, I guess, technically speaking, is you must write this many tickets or bad things happen. So if they're pressured to write lots of tickets, but they're never given an exact number, is that a quota? Well, it's hard to say, but an interesting story. Rob sent this to me out of Hawaii. And Hawaii News Now published it. Lynn Kawano wrote it. Hawaii PD sets quota for speed program, requiring officers to make more stops. And this is pretty much exactly what you think. Honolulu police officers who are participating in a speed enforcement grant program this month will have to pull over at least 4 drivers every hour. So 4 drivers per hour, and that sounds like a quota. An HPD traffic sergeant made the requirement for the federal grant clear in a recent internal email. So let me explain what's going on here. The federal government gives money to various states to work on certain things. And quite often they give road money. That's money for highways and so on. And they'll often tie these grants to things such as speed limits. That was one they did a few years back. Or seatbelt use or things of that nature. And that's one of the ways that the federal government can get states to adapt their laws. So, we know that there are things out there that are governed by the federal government, things that are governed by the state governments. And so this is one of the levers that the feds have that they can use on the states. So if they want a state to do something, they can say, well, if you do it, we'll give you some money for your highways. If you don't, we'll give the money to somebody else. So as part of this grant, apparently, they have to do something about people speeding. So the sergeant wrote, for each hour of grant overtime worked, it is projected that each officer will generate four speed-related contacts. Each stop shall be counted as one contact. So you pull somebody over and you write them 3 tickets, that's still only one contact. You got to pull 4 people over. The email also said that those who don't meet the requirements could face disciplinary action. There you go. So you write 4 tickets an hour, and if you don't, you got a problem. That's a quota, my friends. Jonathan Burge, who's an attorney and former HPD officer, said quotas like this encourage officers to use common speed traps instead of areas where speeding can be more dangerous to the public. So that's the thing. Police officers do write tickets as part of their jobs, right? So if you tell somebody, we are going to simply not look at the quality of the tickets, but the number of the tickets, you don't ask yourself, well, where can I go do the most good? You go, where can I go write the most tickets? So it's not going to be the quality speeding tickets that normally you see, Burge said. You'll see some of the speeds lower, where normally an officer waits until 15 over. They might now start hitting you at 10 over. The quota is strictly an HPD decision because the grant program doesn't have minimum requirements set by the federal government. So the grant from the federal government does not say, hey, do the quota thing, we'll give you money. That's not what it says. The feds don't care how many tickets you give, one attorney said. They want to see if the enforcement tools that are being used are resulting in less accidents and less deaths. He added that the quota puts officers in a difficult position, especially because there is the threat of punishment for those who don't meet the hourly 4-stop minimum. Now, think about this from the viewpoint, and again, I know some people in my audience, when I talk about getting pulled over, they go, I've never been pulled over. Well, if you haven't, I guess you'll have to just, imagine this with me. But you're driving along and the lights come on. So you pull over to the side of the road, roll your window down, turn your dome lights on, put your hands on your wheel, very, very respectful and so on. Police officer walks up, hey, how you doing? You know I pulled you over. Can I see driver's license registration? Goes back to his car. That stop generally lasts about 15 minutes, okay? So if a police officer's got to pull 4 people over per hour, that means that stop has got to actually take less than 15 minutes because he's got to write the ticket, hand you the ticket, say have a nice evening, go back to his car, and then go park again and set up the next person. So to do this at this quantity of tickets requires him to work really, really fast. And at that point, you got to wonder if this person is writing 4 tickets an hour and they know I've got 3 minutes to write my next ticket or I'm in trouble. Does somebody always come along in the next 3 minutes breaking the law? Or what do you do if you're going to get in trouble for not writing 4 tickets? That's a problem. So the email from the HPD traffic sergeant pointed out that if the department is unable to meet performance goals, the department could lose future funding on federal overtime programs. That brings a lot of peer pressure, the attorney said. In a statement to Hawaii News Now, the traffic division major acknowledged that the 4 traffic stop minimum is not part of the federal program, but points out that citations or warnings count as contacts. The grant program runs through March 27th. So if you live in Hawaii and you drive in Honolulu, and I realize that there's several islands out there and so on, that if you drive in this area, be aware of the fact that the Honolulu police right now, along with the rest of their daily duties, are thinking, I got to write tickets. I got to write 4 tickets an hour. 4 tickets an hour. 4 tickets. Time to make donuts. And that's a problem. What happens if something else happens? There's a car accident. Okay, 2 cars collide. Somebody calls, hey, car 3, go out this intersection. There's 2 cars smashed together out there. Are you telling me that the police officer can get there, take care of the accident, write the ticket, and then get out in 15 minutes? Not necessarily. I drove a tow truck, and during those days, I would routinely show up at accidents where it took more than half an hour to clear the scene up. It might take longer. There were a couple I was there for like an hour or so because they're complex accidents involving fatalities and stuff. But the idea that every single time you can do this in 15 minutes. Now, I understand that there might be some police officers out there who can write tickets faster. There's probably someone who can do it in 10 minutes, who can come up with 6 an hour. I bet there are. Quality policing, my friends, and that's a very serious problem. So I've read several articles about this. I purposely went back and got the earliest article I could find that just simply describes the quota itself. But apparently the federal funds are tied to some kind of equation having to do with some way of demonstrating that their policing is somehow keeping the roads safe. And they think that by showing, hey, look, we wrote a bunch of tickets for speeding, and we think people are slowing down, that we've somehow made the roads safer, that they think that by doing that, they can keep the federal funds flowing. And I've said before that once that spigot is open, you're getting the money, it's kind of hard to turn it off or say no to it. So if there's somebody in Washington who thinks that having ticket quotas is making these roads safer, therefore will give more money to Hawaii, well then that results in this weird situation. But here we have the Honolulu Police Department, not 5-0, this is the PD, the local PD. HPD sets quota for speed program, requiring officers to make more stops. And by more stops, we mean literally 4 an hour, like clockwork, 4 an hour. If you don't do 4 an hour, you're in trouble. That's a quota. It's bad. Questions or comments, put them below. Rob, thanks for sending it. That was from Lynn Kawano from Hawaii News Now. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. A cynic knows the price of everything and the value of nothing.